Beyond the manicured lawns of Britain's historic independent boarding schools and the performative rhetoric of domestic policy announcements, a quiet structural divergence is re-engineering the global distribution of human capital. At World Perspective, we are peeling back the layers of educational governance to examine a fascinating geopolitical paradox unfolding in 2026. The rapid expansion of the United Kingdom's elite private education export model contrasted against the systemic fiscal challenges facing its domestic state infrastructure. While British academic brands have successfully weaponized their soft power to construct lucrative offshore franchises across East Asia and the Middle East, domestic state sector funding mechanisms have faced structural compression. We believe that analysing this imbalance is not an exercise in assigning political blame, but a vital opportunity to discover how global prestige can be structurally re-engineered to uplift domestic state institutions. In this investigation, we deconstruct the 10 critical pillars defining the geopolitics of educational trade, moving past standard media headlines to deliver a data-dense, macro-structural analysis. We will evaluate how the commercialisation of British intellectual property overseas can be utilised to resolve the internal funding deficits of domestic state schools, providing a practical blueprint for systemic equilibrium. For you, the viewer, understanding these macro trends provides essential insight into the shifting dynamics of global talent acquisition and localised economic resilience. This feature offers an optimistic, solution-oriented roadmap showing how technological scalability and innovative fiscal cross-subsidisation can directly improve classrooms at the local level, ensuring that global success translates into tangible domestic progress for the masses. 1. The educational franchise paradox and capital allocation. The rapid proliferation of British independent school branches across global markets represents an unprecedented boom in intellectual property exports. In 2026, data shows that there are over 110 premium satellite campuses operating globally, serving a highly affluent international demographic. This commercial architecture has generated billions in non-taxable brand licensing fees. However, the domestic reality presents a stark contrast. Real-term per-pupil funding within the UK state education sector has experienced a structural plateau over the past decade when adjusted for inflationary pressures on energy and staff pensions. From a comparative perspective, while the private export model operates on high-margin, asset-light tuition fees exceeding £45,000 per student annually overseas, local state schools operate within strict capital constraints. To resolve this imbalance, a structural solution has emerged in 2026, the implementation of an offshore educational dividend levy. This fiscal mechanism requires a mandatory 8% infrastructure contribution from international campus profits, channeled directly into a ring-fenced domestic state school modernisation fund. This ensures that the global commodification of British prestige directly finances physical resource upgrades in underfunded domestic regions. 2. The asymmetry of global soft power versus domestic human capital. The deployment of British educational institutions as diplomatic instruments has historically yielded significant global soft power, securing elite international networks for decades. Yet this focus on external prestige has created a domestic human capital asymmetry, particularly in localised STEM literacy and technical capabilities. While offshore campuses are equipped with state-of-the-art robotic labs and advanced digital fabrication suites, domestic state sector institutions frequently struggle to update basic technological infrastructure. When comparing this to the strategic approaches of other high-performing educational jurisdictions, such as South Korea, it is evident that external soft power must be backed by uniform domestic competence. The solution lies in the creation of the Prestige Transfer Network. Under this 2026 initiative, international educational brands must match every offshore student enrolment with a corresponding open access digital credential path made available to state school students within the UK. This re-engineers soft power from an exclusive system into a democratic, scalable knowledge ecosystem. 3. The structural mechanics of offshore revenue streams. The financial architecture underpinning international school franchises relies heavily on complex joint ventures with foreign real estate developers. These developers construct the physical campuses, while the British independent institutions lease their intellectual property, curriculum designs, and operational quality assurance frameworks. In 2026, these high-yielding revenue streams largely bypass the domestic state treasury due to their classification under charitable trust exemptions or offshore holding structures. This model can be contrasted with traditional corporate intellectual property licensing, which is subject to standard corporation taxes. A positive macro-level solution involves rewriting the regulatory framework governing the charitable status of independent schools. By tying domestic tax exemptions directly to a mandatory metric of domestic state sector collaboration, governments can incentivize private institutions to actively invest in state school infrastructure. This approach echoes the structural self-reliance strategies we explored in Britain's economic betrayal, where strategic institutional adaptation became a prerequisite for national survival. 4. Digital twin curricula and scalable learning platforms. The elite pedagogical frameworks developed by premium private schools have long been regarded as premium, exclusive assets. However, 2026 marked a technological breakthrough with the introduction of digital twin educational modelling. This process involves the algorithmic mapping and digitization of elite curricula, seminar structures, and assessment rubrics into high-authority AI-driven learning systems. While legacy educational models treated this high-level content as property to be kept behind high tuition walls, modern open-source platform architectures allow these digital twins to be deployed across the entire state sector at near zero marginal cost. By utilising cloud-based educational distribution, a student in an underfunded regional state academy can access the exact same modular learning pathways as a peer at an elite international campus in Dubai. This application of technical agility directly mirrors the optimization strategies analysed in the Emerald Blueprint, where advanced technical architectures were successfully deployed to resolve complex societal deficits. 5. The Sovereign Academic Wealth Fund formula. To maximise the domestic return on exported academic prestige, a systematic financial mechanism is required to capture international capital. In 2026, forward-thinking economists have proposed the implementation of a Sovereign Academic Wealth Fund, SAWF. This sovereign vehicle aggregates international licensing fees, educational bond issuances, and global alumni endowments into an actively managed global investment portfolio. The mathematical formula governing the annual sovereign educational dividend allocation, SEDA, to state schools can be expressed as SEDA equals the sum of R offshore times alpha plus I portfolio V domestic times 1 minus sigma friction, where R offshore represents total global franchise revenues. Alpha is the structural domestic retention coefficient. I portfolio is the net investment yield. V domestic represents the volume of high deprivation state schools, and sigma friction is the administrative latency index. By minimizing administrative friction and optimizing the retention coefficient, this formula guarantees a continuous, mathematically audited flow of capital straight into the state classrooms that require it most. 6. Comparative geopolitical education models. An examination of global educational architectures reveals that the separation of export success from domestic equity is not an inevitable outcome. For instance, Singapore's educational system operates under a unified national strategy, where international school offerings are strictly balanced against continuous, high-volume state reinvestment. Singapore ensures that its public institutions receive premium infrastructure funding prior to any external commercial expansion. In contrast, the UK model has historically operated in silos, allowing private export mechanisms to flourish independently of state sector performance. The solution requires a fundamental shift toward the Singaporean and Finnish models of structural unity. By establishing a National Educational Coordination Council in 2026, the state can mandate that private educational exports function as a secondary, supportive layer to a highly modernised public core. This structural alignment ensures that a nation's premier export, intelligence, is securely anchored in a thriving domestic population. 7. Reskilling the state sector via elite cross-subsidisation. The retention and professional development of teaching talent represents a critical point of failure within the current domestic state sector. Chronic underfunding has led to widespread systemic burnout, with high percentages of specialised mathematics and physics teachers migrating out of state classrooms due to unsustainable workloads and compressed salaries. Conversely, international franchises attract premium global educators by offering highly competitive, tax-free compensation packages. To counteract this internal brain drain, World Perspective highlights the solution of pedagogical cross-subsidisation. This 2026 framework introduces mandatory, fully funded residency exchanges, where senior educators from elite private networks are deployed into state academies for fixed rotations to lead advanced STEM acceleration programs. Concurrently, state school educators are provided with fully subsidised professional development modules, funded entirely by private export revenues, structurally upgrading the teaching capacity of the public sector. 8. Re-engineering soft power into democratic knowledge networks. Traditional educational soft power focuses heavily on establishing exclusive connections among global elites, often resulting in an insular network that yields minimal economic utility for ordinary citizens. The 2026 global landscape demands a complete re-engineering of this dynamic, transforming exclusive relationships into democratic knowledge networks. Instead of utilising offshore campuses solely to educate the children of foreign billionaires, These institutions are increasingly partnering with international non-governmental organisations to offer fully funded scholarships to displaced and marginalised students globally. This pivot alters the international perception of the country's educational motivations, moving from commercial exploitation to genuine collaborative global leadership. For the domestic population, this expanding network creates new opportunities for international research collaborations and student exchange programs, exposing state school pupils to a cosmopolitan learning environment that was previously closed to them. 9. Reg-Tech and algorithmic resource distribution. The misallocation of capital within public education often compounds the structural issues caused by absolute funding deficits. Traditional state funding formulas rely on outdated demographic data and slow manual reporting, which introduces severe latency into the distribution of emergency educational resources. In 2026, the implementation of regulatory technology, Reg-Tech, offers an elegant, data-driven solution to this logistical bottleneck. By employing machine learning models that analyse real-time indicators of educational deprivation, such as localised shifts in youth unemployment, literacy drops, and classroom asset degradation, the state can distribute funds with absolute precision. This automated approach ensures that the capital generated by the Sovereign Academic Wealth Fund is instantly routed to the specific school departments that require immediate support. This system of optimised transparency directly reflects the principles of radical trust that we explored in Norway, where a simplified, data-led relationship between central institutions and public infrastructure ensures maximum systemic resilience. 10. The 2026 Universal Education Accord. The final pillar of this educational renaissance is the ratification of the 2026 Universal Education Accord. This international treaty establishes a strict, legally binding, ethical code for all global educational franchising and intellectual property transfers. The Accord mandates that any institution exporting academic branding across borders must maintain a verifiable one-to-one operational partnership with a public school in their home jurisdiction. By creating a system where global expansion is legally impossible without a corresponding domestic equity contribution, the treaty permanently prevents the formation of a digital or academic caste system. This international agreement guarantees that the commercialisation of intelligence becomes a primary catalyst for global and localised human advancement, ensuring that the benefits of elite pedagogy are shared by the many, rather than guarded by the few. The architecture of an optimistic future. The structural divergence between the United Kingdom's elite private education export model and its domestic state infrastructure is not an unalterable economic reality, but a design challenge waiting for an intelligent solution. By utilising the precision of machine learning, open-source curriculum architecture, and progressive fiscal cross-subsidisation, we demonstrate that global commercial success can be directly integrated with domestic public equity. This analysis reveals a future where a nation's academic prestige is not hoarded as an exclusive asset for the global elite, but weaponized as a powerful engine to uplift every local state classroom. By transforming the invisible hand of educational commerce into a visible, accountable mechanism for public good, we can ensure that high authority intelligence becomes a universal resource, building a more stable, equitable, and optimistic future for the masses. If the true metric of a nation's global standing is shifting from military power to the quality of its code and intelligence, are we prepared to re-engineer the commercial blueprints of our elite academic brands to secure the domestic state sector? Or will we allow our local human capital to be outpaced by the very systems we export? Navigating the global landscape. Tools for further research. To expand your research and achieve a complete macro-level understanding of the 2026 structural paradigm shifts, it is vital to connect the dots between education, wealth systems, and international statecraft. World Perspective has mapped these intersections across our channel to provide you with an advanced analytical toolkit. Deconstructing the global wealth layer. The optimization models and sovereign funds outlined in this educational blueprint are fundamentally powered by the next generation of financial systems. To understand how automated capital and programmable currencies are driving these public sector changes, explore our comprehensive investigation, The Financial Renaissance: How AI and Programmable Money Re-Engineer Wealth in 2026. This feature will provide you with the exact framework needed to analyze modern resource distribution. The blueprint for global equity. Educational trade is rapidly becoming a cornerstone of modern soft power and high-stakes diplomacy. To map out how computational protocols, automated treaties, and algorithmic mediation are rewriting international law alongside these academic exports, cross-reference this video with our foundational report, The Digital Piece: How AI and Computational Diplomacy Re-Engineer Global Equity in 2026. By synthesizing the data across these investigations, you will gain a profound, uncompromised perspective on how software-defined systems are re-engineering the daily lives of the masses.